Oh my gosh, what am I not doing now? Really, honestly, I am. I gotta say, one of my favorite things to do is pull back the curtain as much as I can. It's it's been a great experience, but it's also like a lot of work. It's still even. I think a lot of people, like the general public, will watch a show like that and they think, wow, now that's the yellow brick road, and it is not. But so now I am writing music, I'm recording music, I'm traveling and touring all the time. Planning. I'm always planning what to try next, or what I am going to do next, and how to accomplish that, and how to sort of execute that. So those are all, I'm right on the verge, even though it's been, oh man, 3.5 years or so, I guess. I guess I'm right on the verge of finally being comfortable with, like, this is my first official album. Like, I'm kind of picky about, like, it being cohesive, and I want it to be sort of a, like, one story that goes through these songs. And so all of that, and really more.
And I think you bring up a really good point, is that people watch these shows and the shows are well produced and they're beautiful. And yes, you get support afterwards, but
Yeah.
then it doesn't end with, and he lived happily ever after. There's like a
Oh,
lot
no.
of hustling you have to do.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot. And I don't ever, I never ever want to, like, put myself in a special category, but it doesn't help that I knew, now, God, I've had a baptism in fire, but, like, I knew nothing about the industry. And when I say nothing, I mean like zero or less. And then also I sort of, I don't know that it was with a bang, but I sort of entered the scene later in life, as opposed to how other people, do it. And so I always say all the time, you're never too old and it's never too late. But if you could do it in your 20s, please do.
Well, that's a really good point, because you were, 42 when you won,
Yeah.
right? 42.
Right.
And,
Right. Yeah.
but do you think that you would have been ready to win in your 20s?
Me, no. So I think I really do believe that it worked out the way it was supposed to work out for me. Number one, I feel like, and I don't mean this as any kind of criticism toward any of my friends that were on the show with me, or have been, or are on now. But for me, I think being older helped me to sort of, I think I sort of had a more level and strategic mindset. I don't know how to put that. Like, even at the blind audition, I kind of went into it thinking if I had the opportunity to go with Blake, that I probably would. Um, but I also had, like, in my mind, I was sort of strategizing. I'm like, well, Blake, lots of people vote Blake, and he seems to be sort of a fan favorite, and also Blake and I are a lot alike. And also, if I would have been 20 with the knowledge that I had going in now, I would have been screwed, because I didn't know anything, even now. But you know how it is. I always say, God bless you if you're in your 20s. I'm not mad at you. But man, if I could erase that whole decade, I might.
Well, and there's something so interesting about the way that you've chosen to talk about the struggles and chosen to talk about what your 20s and 30s were like. And it was no easy path. And you made a conscious choice to put a lot of that out there during the show. And then you wrote a book with your wife, and a
Yeah.
lot of it is out there also.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you wouldn't be who you are without going through all of that.
Right.
And you knew if you won or lost that show. I mean, even if you drove all the way to Atlanta to try out the first time, and if you would have, thanks so much for playing, Todd, you might have been disappointed, but you had children, you have other things that, you didn't have 8 kids in your 20s. Your
Right.
perspective was totally different.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's something about that perspective. If you could talk a little bit about how your, life changes, when the most important thing, it will never for you be winning The Voice, based on what I know about you.
Right. Right. Yeah. You sort of, I actually had conversations and have since with people, some even while we were in the process of doing blind auditions or whatever, on the show. And, I think what happens, and I can't blame anybody. I think I do. I think we all do it to some degree. So it's certainly not like any kind of like me blaming, but I think you run across someone and you hear about their life and the things that they do and what their life's like, and it's almost like you sort of think they were born like that. You know what I mean? And that's just this is the when people hear I have 8 kids, I have to explain like we don't have octuplets. We have with this it's over time, and you adjust, over time, and also I think, man, I just think there's so much, and I'm 45 now, so who knows what else I'll learn in my life. I'm sure there's plenty more to learn. But I just feel like so much of the things that we did, choices that we made that were not great, and then other things that are sort of out of your control, but you're just living this life and you're trying, you're sometimes you're just trying to survive. And so I think if you're not careful, you won't. And I've been guilty. You won't look back. My what I like to do, my outlook on life to a large degree is, and you certainly don't have to adopt this, no one, but like mine is like always look at my past collectively. Like, man, look at all that we've been through. Look at all, because if you don't, you forget all of the things, man, and all of the stuff that we faced and things that we thought there was no way in the world we would ever get through, But I always take the future like just a day at a time. If I look at the future collectively, I'm overwhelmed. I look at the past collectively, but the future, I just look at the next thing, because if I don't, I'll freak out.
And we always get it wrong, right? The past, we can, adjust our perspective or adjust how we think about it or
Right.
context and go through the journals and look at it as, a little bit more adult eyes and more
Yeah.
wisdom. But the future, we always get it wrong. So why spend a lot
Yeah.
of time fretting and worrying? Because we're never going to predict it exactly right. You would have never predicted at 20 something that you were going to win the voice at 40 something. I mean, there was no
Oh,
voice
no.
beside that, but still.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't. I always say I don't know why I stayed so nervous on the show. When I was on the show, I don't know why I was so anxious the whole time. I just kept assuming that I was getting kicked off the next round. And so I'm like, that's what you're nervous about. So why are you so nervous when you think it's going to happen anyway? But maybe it helped me. I don't know. When I went to the open call, I just figured they'd say no. Every step I just kind of thought, and it wasn't even singing. I actually, to this day, I still think singing's the only thing I'm any good at. I'm like, I'm not good at really anything else but singing. But so it wasn't that part. It was more, I'm a little, I mean, in honesty, mainstream, with my history and my background and what I did for a living and my family. And we got married. She was 18 years old. I was 20 years old. I'm a little atypical. I'm not like the cool, like really fit, sexy young guy that they want to come make a big star at, and so I just kind of thought that would work against me.
Like you didn't have the right image. I mean, you were a
Yeah.
pastor, you sort of did things in a non-mainstream sort of way. And
Yeah.
therefore, why would they want to build a whole show around me and tell my story? Because
Right.
it's not as marketable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Even now in music, now if I go into a room and I want, I'm always like very like disclaimer kind of guy. I think everyone, you do what you feel like you're supposed to do, and I think that's great. But for me, like if I go into a room to write, if they let me know kind of right up front what the deal is, then fine. That's what we're doing. We're working. It's a work day. But so much now, if I can help it, I don't know if it's because I'm old or like I don't care to write things just for commercial appeal, like just so they can be commercial. I That's why like so much when this project is finally really finished. I mean, we've put a lot out as singles. It's basically the story of a life and family. It's what it really is, and those are the stories I like to tell. I like, I mean, I love to share my faith, and I love to share my story of family, and some of it's really fun, like there's a song I co-wrote called Home Sweet Highway, and it's about having to leave your the person you love, that because you're out on the road all the time, and it's kind of fun. But then on the other hand, Home Wasn't Built in a Day, which I did release, is it's not so fun, but it's every word of that song is true. And it is a little tougher for me when you have, but I do try to understand it's a business. And so I guess my official opinion is I feel like too much of it is just for commercial purposes. I think if you share your heart, man, if it matters to you, it'll matter to somebody else, at least one or two. Somebody will care if you care.